are relevant today. And joining us now from Annapolis in Maryland is medical historian Merle Eisenberg. So Merle, thanks for being with us and clarifying a few points here.
Thanks for having me.
We're looking at a situation where there are some coincidences here. Some have described the One Belt, One Road initiative, this multi-billion-dollar investment by China, building roads and rail and ports, as a perfect pandemic freeway for the coronavirus. During previous outbreaks like SARS and MERS, there wasn't this sort of level of connectivity. Is this one of the reasons why the virus is spreading so quickly to other countries? And also notably why most cases globally still have some kind of direct link to China, not a lot of community transmission?
Yeah, I mean, one thing to say, drawing on my expertise here at the National Social Environmental Synthesis Center, is one thing we need to think about is how global connectivity works more broadly. So, in the past, as you discussed with the Black Death, the transmission routes were very similar, right? People follow the same routes over the same over the same roads, the same mountain passes, as they've always done. So global trade has always been a way in which, both in the past and today, disease outbreaks have spread. So, it's not surprising that it's working in many ways the same way.
What is not surprising is that that a virus spreads along a busy trading route, whether it's the 21st century or the 14th century. It does seem surprising that both outbreaks emerged from Hubei province in China, and that does sort of lead to almost like a paranoia of outbreaks, that there's something deadly and mysterious and horrible coming our way, and that's almost sort of a creation of how we look at these things these days, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's very much true, right? You talked about the Black Death, right? Whenever we think about the plague, right, almost with a capital T and a capital P with scare quotes around it, right? We always think about it in that way in this catastrophe. But in fact, there's two other large outbreaks of plague over the course of history. One happens 800 years before the Black Death in the 6th century, and one happens around the year 1900, around the turn of the 20th century. And both of those actually are quite different. They spread very far, but their impact is significantly less, I would suggest. And if you look at, say, the early 20th century one, right, in some places it killed a lot of people in South Asia, but somewhere like San Francisco, for example, there was 5 years of an outbreak and only 120 people died. And for those 120 people, it was obviously terrible and a devastating event, but that's a very small number, obviously, when you compare that to, say, half the population of Europe.
I wonder if you sort of get to the conclusion then that historical comparisons can only take you so far, because these outbreaks seem to have their own individuality each time.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, you have to think about the locality in which things are happening and how governments react to them, both in the past and in the present, right? We see that today in different countries around the world. Different governments are pursuing different measures to stop the coronavirus, and just in the past as well, with obviously some more limited ways to do it. But certainly around the year 1900, people, did whole great rat catching endeavors to catch all the rats that supposedly spread the plague. So that was successful in some places, and in some places it was not. But there's a whole host of local places that really matter how we address these issues.
And very quickly, explain sort of the historical parallels between Iran and Italy, both having a significant role in the spread of the plague and also in the spread of the coronavirus.
Sure. I mean, that has to do with, geographic positions more than anything else. In the medieval period, Italy is a strong center of commercial trade, and so they have trade networks throughout the Mediterranean that reach all the way into Central Asia, like Iran and stuff like that. And so that's where you have that direct connection to Genoa and other Italian cities. And it's, something similar. It's a geographical position where trade goods simply have to move across the earth.
Good point to finish on, Merle. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
And CNN is hosting a global town hall on the facts and fears